first we have to check if we want to change something, if we want to practice, we have to check if we have what we need. And this is what we did last time. We went through this, the precious human rebirth. The second question that we did ask ourselves is, will it last? And so the answer to that was what? No, which we are also not aware of, is it?
Please make it last.
Which we are also not aware of. We're not aware of that it doesn't last, that it kind of runs out second by second by second. And when we see people dying around us, we always think it's them, but it's not us. Like somehow we do know intellectually that we will die, but like, a deep instinctive knowing that this life will end, I don't think we have it, because otherwise we would behave in many situations. We behave differently, and definitely we would have different priorities. I'm sorry, I don't feel so well. I have like Meniere's disease, so then I get dizzy spells, so then I have one at the moment. So if I go a bit off the track, then I can put it on that, and it's not my fault. So that's quite handy. Okay, and then is the question what comes after. And then, so last time we talked about karma. That is our karmic actions that create basically the future. Already it has an influence on how we feel now. When we do a negative action in general, there's some tension and some regret and some kind of unhappiness, isn't it? Unless you planned it. There can be a short moment of happiness, but in general, when you think about it, then especially people who come to these places and to these courses, in general, they have a great interest in being non-harming and to have an ethical behavior. What do you think? Is it like that? Yeah, so like that. So what determines our next rebirth is the moment of, like, the state of mind at the moment of death, because one of those karmic imprints get activated and then throws us in our next rebirth. Yeah. So then we talked about the danger of this, that we don't really know where we are going to be reborn, because already now, while we are still alive, our mind very often is not in such a good state, and we don't have that much control over the mind. We can't tell the mind, okay, now please be concentrated, or please be calm, please be kind, please be open, or whatever. It just very often does exactly what it wants to do and doesn't do what we want it to do. Okay. So that would be studying these topics, and then also to see where does it come from. What we didn't cover is refuge, but I always think that, talking about refuge with people who don't know the whole path is not that much point. But refuge is, when you become a Buddhist, kind of, you take refuge, means you trust the teachings or the methods of the Buddha, and you have a certain, not a panicky fear, but you have a certain disgust or fear of what one calls cyclic existence, or samsara. And samsara means we are. Sorry, Brigitte, om nog maar inne. And samsara means we are reborn. Actually, we don't have control over this. Again, this is what Buddhism says. If you hear this for the first time, definitely you don't have to accept it. This is the Buddhist view, but definitely there's also other views around, and then you have to check which view for you works. When I first heard about rebirth, it somehow it immediately, I thought, I was very happy, because I always had this feeling that I wasn't here for the first time, and I always had this feeling that something continues, although I grew up in a totally non-religious or non-spiritual environment. So, my parents thought I was a bit loopy, believing in these things, that they kind of said, where did you hear this? So when I heard it, that there's other people who believe that, who have these views. It's just views, right? I don't know if it's totally true. Like, nobody can really prove 100% that there is rebirth, but nobody can also disprove 100% that there is rebirth. So we have 50-50 chance, yes or no. So then it's good to check. I think if we would believe in rebirth, I think the world would be a better place. Because just look, when if we would think that we have to come back here again and again and again and again, I think we would take better care of this planet also. Because just look, when you leave for a holiday, when you leave your apartment, I think we already talked about this last time. Yeah, when you leave your apartment, at least you get rid of the garbage because you know when you come back after 2 weeks, it will smell and will be rotten and all this. But when you leave a hotel room, you leave everything behind because somebody else can clean it up. So, like, do you see what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, you would clean your hotel room if you come back the same evening because you stay for a longer time. Maybe then also you throw out the garbage, but if you check out, you normally you leave it as you just leave it. Definitely not the same way as you leave your apartment. Or what do you think? It is a bit like this. So maybe next time you leave your hotel room, try to leave it because we come to bodhicitta today. So try to leave it as if you would be the maid who comes in to clean the room, because I know some of these people. They have 11 minutes in the ibis to clean up your room and to change the sheets. So the less you leave the mess behind, the more you help them. Actually, have you ever thought about taking off the sheets in a hotel room? Just an idea. You could do it. I mean, nobody would be unhappy about it, you know. So just an idea. How in a very simple way. Huh?
You remember when I took out the sheets that you already put new sheets on? With Patrick's and Marianne's?
Oh yeah, well that's another thing. That's not a hotel, is it?
I was just dumb.
This is not a hotel, so that's good. So it was done. It's an act of kindness, but usually in the hotel, when you get out of bed, you know it's.
Changed them and I took them off.
But it wasn't your bed, was it? It was somebody else's bed.
I took them all off.
That yeah. So yeah. So that's a little bit different situation. Anyway, whether you take off the sheets or not, do it as you want. But I think it's a nice thing to do, to actually think about these women who work very very hard. Hi, Julian, who work very very hard for like very little money on top of it. So okay, so the taking refuge means that you trust the methods and what is being said, even though you do check. I mean, it's not that you just believe it. You just believe it with blind faith. And usually the Dalai Lama kind of recommends to people, if you are thinking about becoming a Buddhist and if you're thinking about taking refuge, it's good to kind of to practice for at least 2 years. And practice in terms of not just coming now to this, 4 evenings and then you wait 2 years and then you take refuge, not like this. But really coming again and again to the center or to another center, read books, and not just that, but really try to put it into practice, because you will see it's not as easy as it sounds. Kind of not getting angry at people who upset you, and being able to transform your mind when you're in a really bad mood is not so easy. It needs a lot of time and it needs a lot of practice. So if you practice for 2 years or so, and then you find, yeah, this is really my way, this is my path, then I want to become a Buddhist, and then you can take refuge. But again, you would really study before what does it mean, or at least learn what does it mean taking refuge. But we won't be going into that. Basically what it means, you need to have a fear of samsara. Like you need to have this, what we called the last time, renunciation. I want to get out of this uncontrolled rebirth again and again and again and again and again. Then if you don't believe in rebirth, can you become a Buddhist? I don't know, then. But you can definitely do all the Buddhist practices, come to every Buddhist group without, and even proclaiming that I don't want to become a Buddhist, but some of these methods I like, it's okay. Nobody will get angry at you. Nobody will try to pressure you into taking refuge and all this, because it's something that you do for your life, and then taking refuge becomes very strong when you actually know what you are doing, because it holds you back from maybe doing negative things, which otherwise you wouldn't be. You would just do it, thinking, well, if nobody gets me, then if I don't get caught, then who cares? Because I think this is a bit what it is. This is why ethical conduct at the moment in this world is so how to say, so lush, so loose, because people think, yeah, if nobody catches me, then at the time of death, there's no rebirth, nothing, and I don't go to heaven. If people don't have any religion, don't have any belief in something continuous, then yeah, why would you be careful? You just do whatever comes into your mind, and then we have a mess because we make other people suffer, and then they get angry, and then we, from the Buddhist point of view, we have a lot of negative karma, which then develops into habits, and also but also develops into the same thing happening to us. And then most of the time with the karma, it ripens when we don't remember that we did the action, and then the blame always goes outside, isn't it? Yeah, that's the problem. So it's a little bit like a boomerang, when you shoot a boomerang in a park, and it comes back and hits your own head. Uh, it hurts, but you won't blame anybody. Whereas if you don't remember that you kind of threw the boomerang and then it comes back, first thing you do is I hoot through it, isn't it? And that's what we do when actually negative karma ripens for us. First thing is always we point outside. Which it doesn't mean also if you understand karma, it doesn't mean you just sit and say, okay, I just wait until my karma ripens. Yeah, it would be nice if good karma ripens, and well, but if the bad karma ripens, it will ripen, and then what to do is like this is just yeah. That's not what is meant. But at least, and also when you know about law of cause and effect, you don't go digging in the past, especially if you have a difficult life. This is very difficult for Westerners. We have in some other groups, like there's people who really have like very severe sicknesses. So they're trying to think and find out what kind of horrible person they've been in the past and all this. It's no point. It's really no point because you were somebody totally different. If you would have been the same person, you would remember also. The eye was different, the gender may be different, maybe even the realm where you were born was different, and all that. So we don't know. When we learn about the law of cause and effect, what it is for is that we look now. What kind of causes am I creating now for my for the future and also for now, as I said. I think your life is really easier and happier if you decide that as much as possible you want to have ethical conduct. Yeah? Or what do you think? I think so. I definitely think so. And karma also is to be used as a mirror where we look what we are doing and not be used as a kind of window where we kind of, that's also something that we like to do. We excuse our small negative actions when we see other people doing bigger negative actions. Then we all, But it creates negative karma because it's the mind that is creating the karma. It's not some Buddha who is seeing you or God and then saying, oh, you don't behave in the right way, therefore you're going to be punished. Okay, it's not like that. Okay, so we can have a look at this, the foundation of all good qualities, where there you have it listed very nicely, how you, the way you practice, yeah. Because then now we come to the middle level where you say, even as a human being, life still has a lot of things in it that are dissatisfying, even though our situation, as opposed to lower states, lower rebirth, which we didn't that much go into it. We talked about being reborn in Syria or in Afghanistan or in Africa where you don't have enough. We talked about these places because, but one actually talks in Buddhism about different states, like different dimensions that maybe we can see humans, we can see animals, but we can't see hell beings, hungry ghosts, and all this. Yeah. Okay. So this is on page 32, and we look how far we got. If there's still some little booklets there, maybe you can give it to. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him or her with great respect. So this is what we discussed already, what a guru is. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once. Now, of course, it's not found only once. This is not your first precious human rebirth, because in order to create the causes for a precious human rebirth, you need to have you need to have good conditions, because it is that you practice ethical conduct, generosity, patience, and all these kinds of things. And if your life is very difficult, then it's almost impossible to do. Although we didn't talk about it, but I put you these outlines of the Lamrim. It's in this booklet. So if you keep the booklet, if you have it, then maybe later when you have a full Lamrim course with much more time to explain these things, then you can always go back to it and you see what is listed there. For example, also is like the causes for precious human rebirth and these kind of things. So how, huh? Yeah, exactly. So, but you're already at bodhicitta, so. Okay, so it's actually quite handy to have these outlines, because then you don't have to go searching for, oh, the 8 of this and the 10 of that and what is this. You can just refer to it. So it's good. Yeah, it's nice that you're starting again. So why is it said it's found only once? Because that's how we should treat it. Because when we say, oh no, I practice with my transforming my mind next rebirth. But now I'm born in Switzerland. I'm having a good time. I'm young, and have a good body, and I want to have some fun and all this, and I'll practice when I'm old. Or so. Like this, found only once means as if you have it only once, as if there is no other chance, because we don't know if we have another chance. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. So they also, why does it say night? Do you have to practice at night? That also we discussed. We said, no, you can go to sleep with a good motivation. You can go to sleep by looking at your day, and by, you've done like negative things, you can regret, and you can try to amend things and all this, and you rejoice about the good things that you do, and then you go to sleep. Or you go to sleep. You remember the motivation that we had last time with the bodhicitta motivation? You go to sleep with the motivation thinking, I'm going to sleep now so that tomorrow I'm rested and then I'm not getting on other people's nerves. Because when I'm tired, it's very easy to upset me. It's very easy for me to get frustrated and angry and all this. So then at least it's not just for you that you're going to sleep, but you also think about others. It's a very easy thing to do, actually. Yeah, think, okay, may I be rested tomorrow so that I don't harm others. Because why do we harm others? It's when we are unhappy. It's not when you're happy. When you're happy, there's absolutely no wish to harm. So we have a great responsibility to keep our mind in a happy state, not just for others, but also for ourselves. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities, and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So this is, if you practice these things, then you take care of your actions, whatever negative actions you've done, you purify them. Then you would be, and you train for death. You can train for the moment of death. Then you have a good chance that you have a good rebirth again in your next life. Okay. So that's the lowest level. You practice because you want to have a good rebirth. But it's not enough, because even if we have a good rebirth as a human under very good condition, still, that's what we did the first time. Do you remember the sufferings that we looked at? Dukkha, what does it imply? If you can't remember, maybe try to find a page in your booklet, and then you can read it. So at least you know where to find it. Fabio, remember? You must have heard this many times. Dukkha, suffering. Yeah. So, suffering. What? What does it mean? What is included there? Well, that's not an official one, but we have official ones, so maybe we can kind of stick to those before we start. You can add a lot of things. Yeah. So, like we divided them into three. Do you remember? Suffering of. Very good. Where did that come from? Pain? Okay, good. Okay, tell them the page so they don't know. Yeah, page 17. Yeah. Okay, suffering of pain, which we understand because when we have suffering of pain, we want to do something about it. So we don't have to be so proud. But then there's two other sufferings which are more subtle, which then is the suffering of change, which means,
Things are impermanent, they're always changing.
yeah, everything that especially when we find happiness in something outside, yeah, like sense pleasures or things like that, it becomes, we get bored with it after a while. We have to change something. Or they go out of existence, or we're not interested in them anymore. Yeah. Okay, it's like you've been walking for a long time, so you're tired. Then you sit down, and then you get tired of sitting down, so you have to go either lie down or walk. And then you've been lying down for too long, then you have to get up again. So just this very simple fact. There's so many things in a day that we have to do because otherwise it would change into suffering of pain. Yeah, and that's not satisfying. And then, of course, then the most subtle one is what?
Pervasive, compounded suffering.
Compounded suffering. That means like we have these. Is very good. That means because we have these five. As long as you know where to find it, it's fine. Nobody's asking you to know these things by heart. I think you know them by heart when you have to start teaching. Then you start to really get to know these things by heart, or if you heard them for 20 years. But before, don't put too many. Even though I always ask people, but it's okay. It's okay if you don't know them. I mean, I'm not thinking you're lazy or you're stupid or anything like that. It's the same in all the groups, just for you to know.
We're all stupid.
Huh?
We're all stupid.
No, you're all,
Just joking.
you're not stupid. You're very intelligent too, to know how to survive anyway. Um, how to get out of samsara, I don't know if we're intelligent enough. Yeah, if we do have the right renunciation to get out of suffering. The all compounded suffering, which is kind of for 24 hours a day, like in a very simple way. For 24 hours a day, we carry with us the potential from being very, very happy. Like I got on the train in Bern, I was very happy. I got on the tram in Zurich, I started to get dizzy, and I wasn't happy anymore. Now I'm feeling more or less okay, but I'm still nauseous. So it's like, it doesn't take long. And this is something I carry in me, and I know I will have this for the rest of my life because there's no cure. And I have absolutely no certainty when it comes. It comes or it comes, it doesn't come, it just. So, yeah, so then you know about the uncertainty of life that, I make plans, but I know exactly that sometimes I just can't. I can't. Okay. So that we carry, I know that I carry this with me 24 hours a day, but everybody else as well, just like other things, yeah, because body is very fragile. Many causes can cause injuries and all this. I bet the car that was upside down, he didn't count on that this morning. Yeah, so we always think we're so secure in a way, isn't it? It only happens to others. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go into panic, but it means that at least when you come home in the evening, that we have a feeling of, wow, I'm still alive. Wow, nothing really bad happened today. But when something negative happens, which we don't expect, we don't even appreciate it. We get upset. And if nothing negative happens, because we think it's normal that nothing negative happens, we don't even appreciate. Yeah. So this also is something you can change, and then you have a lot more, let's say, states of mind of gratitude and being really happy and like that. Yeah. So this is just by not counting so much anymore that nothing happens, we start to count that something could happen, and then when nothing happens, kind of we're happy. Okay, so those are the three sufferings that have to be understood, not just the first one, but also the two other ones that we carry that with us, and it's not satisfying. The second noble truth was, huh? The causes of suffering or the origin of suffering, which is that the same page? Yeah, if you sum them up into, Huh? No? Also, yeah, but sum them up, all of them. They're called, there are many names. They're called Nirmong in Tibetan, Klesha in Sanskrit. In English, we call them, they don't have a good one name yet. There's many. They call them either delusions, afflictive emotions, mental poisons. What else they call them? Huh? Yeah, the poisons. It poisons the mind. It poisons the mind that usually is quite calm and like a mirror reflecting what is there. But when one of those are there, then reality gets even more distorted than it's already distorted. Not only we kind of add real existence, but then is that we add like either negative sides or positive sides or take away positive sides or take away negative sides and all this. They act like a filter who make the mind especially not just blurred or deluded, but also unsubdued. Yeah, we don't have like when you're angry, when you're panicking, when you're full of desire, you can't just stop them. Yeah, they are they control us, basically. And then we do actions. So then the causes or the origin of that our life is like this is our past actions, like karmic seeds that we create, and these negative emotions and these delusions. Out of these delusions, there are three main ones, which is the one, it's called ignorance, but I don't like so much these ignorant things because ignorance means not knowing. Yeah? When we say somebody is ignorant, so they don't know. So not knowing is not so bad because then you can just ask somebody and then you get to know it. But actually, what they mean by this ignorance is like um, it's an active ignorance. It's an active wrong knowing, which is much more dangerous than just not knowing. Yeah. So it's our mind that actually creates the reality outside by with this filter of I and others separate, or a body, a mind, and what else do we have? We have a body and a mind, and we have a huh? Speech. Ah, yeah, this also we have. Okay. That's the three doors. With those we create karma, but usually when we divide ourselves, body, mind, and have you all realized emptiness? Wow! Amazing. What else do we have? A feeling, an instinctive feeling of huh? An I, a self, an I, yeah? Like a third entity. I have a body and a mind, and if you want a speech also, that's fine. But usually we have to, when we talk like this, it's like body and mind, yeah? And this I is the possessor of these two things. And this is this active knowing, not knowing, or a wrong view, because that I does not exist the way that it appears. It appears as the possessor of body and mind. It appears as if it's the boss. It's not the boss at all. Yeah. And it's totally dependent on body and mind because if you take away the mind and if you take away the body, what else can you still have? Can the I survive without a body and a mind? Sorry. Whenever you say I, it's either the body or the mind doing something. If you just say I, then it's no meaning, zero meaning. It's not something, it feels as if it's sitting in here, but when you start to try to find it, you can't find it. Okay, so that's the root of all our negative actions. Because whatever is good for this I or me, I want and I defend it. And whatever is not good for this I or me, I don't want and I kind of chase it away. And out of that come desire and anger or aversion or even like hate and these kind of things. Okay. Then again, also you have the list of these negative emotions. Um, uh, they talk about like 6 main ones and then 20 secondary ones, but I'm sure the list can be, that was at the time of the Buddha, so the list can um, definitely be longer. So then it still goes into the topic of renunciation. So not only do we want to have a good life, but even also this life is not good enough. We want to get out of being under the control of these negative emotions, meaning wanting to eliminate like these wrong views of feeling a self, because we do feel it, or an I, and then grasping at it, holding it for real, and then cherishing it. Yeah. And actually this is the cause for rebirth, because we want to exist. Yeah. There is the desire. First of all, we have a desire for pleasant things. But then also we have a desire, or we attach to views. But also we have a desire for being. But also then sometimes we have a desire for non-being or for non-existence. Have you ever felt that? This desire for not existing, for non-existence? Never? When you make a mistake and you kind of, everybody looks at you, go, ah, even as, or maybe as a kid, like if you had a very cruel teacher that used to pull you out of the class, and we had to stand still, and he would kind of go and go and go and go, and you just, the more he kind of went, the more you got, the more you didn't know what he wanted from you. And then definitely this feeling of a wish for non-existence is definitely there. And it all comes from an exaggerated view of I or self. But what this I or self is looking for is pleasure. Easy life, pleasure, um, everything that's difficult, it fears a bit. Yeah, that one. And it doesn't even exist. But we follow it again and again and again and again. So would be the next verse here in the foundation of all good qualities. Sorry, we have to switch again pages. So now we're on page 33. And what this I, or what this ego definitely is thinking, we also went through this the first time, these 4 wrong conceptions that we have that go with samsara. Maybe somebody is very quick and finds them in the booklet. Okay, we don't have so much time because I have to finish the path today, so I just tell you the answer. One is that we see things that are by nature impermanent, we see them as permanent. This is why we get disappointed when something breaks or when we lose something. The second one, we see things that are by nature suffering or dissatisfying by nature, we see them as happiness. We put the label happiness on the wrong things, meaning we put the label happiness on, for example, a pleasant experience. Yeah. Immediately, the mind grasps at it and says, this is the cause, this gelato or this woman or this man, when you have sex with them, or just touching them or whatever, when you like them. You see, I mean, this is the funny thing. It's like a touch, which is like fingers which have skin on it, touches another part which also has skin that covers it, and it can be either very pleasant or very unpleasant. Can that be the touch? It cannot be the touch. Where does it have to come from? From our mind, who says, I want this or I don't want this. Yeah? But we don't see it like this. When the person that I'm in love with touches me, is like it's inherently good. It's only his hand, which is the same hand as anybody else's hand, with 5 fingers on it and skin which covers it, touches me. It's like, oh, wow. When it's some other man's hand who's sitting next to me in the tram, luckily I'm too old, it doesn't happen anymore. So I'm really protected from this. Um, I'm really protected because we had this discussion the other day with this Me Too. So we were sharing how we were touched. And me, for this non-existence thing, actually, I was about 8 years old, and I was in a ski lift with my skis, like in a cabin. And there's a man who was putting his hand, between my legs, and I was too scared to do something. I was just totally frozen. I mean, today, but now they don't do it anymore. But today he would have a blue eye or something, I tell you, or I would at least yell. Yeah. But there it was, I was frozen. But I don't think that it ruined my life, quite honestly. I was happy when the cabin was there. I got out and started skiing, and then that was it. I didn't really carry that with me. It only came back when we started talking. The memory came back when we started talking about these things. One can also make a big thing out of it, which obviously I think I didn't do. Now I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. It's at the moment it was very 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 unpleasant. So. So that's what I mean. So it can't be the touch, yeah. It has to be the mind who decides. It has to be the mind who labels it pleasure or suffering. It's the same thing. It's a hand who is touching a knee or something. Was I was in a movie now. I'm sure all the other women probably also. Maybe it doesn't happen so much anymore. I was in a movie in England and one was still able to smoke at that time, and they did smoke. So then the hand from there came, and me with the cigarette, talk, and then that was it. Yeah. So then I was grown up. So, but again, it didn't really. That's it. I finished watching the movie. Yeah. Also, maybe I'm just insensitive. I don't know. So seeking samsaric pleasure is the door to all suffering. So the mind labels a pleasant experience, labels it happiness. So now, pleasure is not suffering. Seeking it is suffering. This is what it says here. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering, because then we act out of attachment. And I'm afraid I don't have enough time to go into that, because when we have desire for something, then we add things that are not there. And the mistake that we're making, that we think that the pleasant feeling comes from this object outside. So then we have to go look for it again and again and again and again. But as we go and look for it again and again and again and again, what happens? What kicks in? The second suffering. If it's the same object again and again and again. What is the second suffering? That's suffering of pain, suffering of change. All of a sudden, this object is not interesting anymore. Or just look at it with the same kind of food, if it's like a big mountain. So how the experience of eating the food changes while you eat it. First it's delicious, then it becomes uninteresting, and if you don't stop, it becomes disgusting. How many of you have had food poisoning? Okay. When you think, wow, have you all been to India? Me also, by the way. Yeah, me also. So when you think about this food now, even maybe years after, what happens? If I bring you this food now and I put it in front of you, what would happen? Would you eat it? No, even though it's like fresh food and it's not from India and all this. Hello. Can you do you want to sit on the yeah, on the chair? Yeah? So, but obviously you had the food poisoning because you liked the food at the beginning. Yeah? So what has changed is the attitude towards it. Suffering has changed there is really drastic. Yeah, it's the same food, and not all of these foods that we ate then are causing food poisoning. But even now we know the food is fresh. It's like you can't eat it anymore. Yeah. So that's the suffering of change. So seeking happiness outside, this is creating the suffering, because we create a lot of negative karma in order to get what we want or in order to prevent what we don't want, and then what also is with outside pleasures, they are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Yeah, because of the suffering of change. When I was a kid, we had ice cream just came about. I'm not from Italy, so it took a while for ice cream to come to Switzerland. Okay, so we had like vanilla and strawberry and chocolate. That was it. We had 3 flavors, and we were happy. Because why? Because it was new. But then, it takes a few years, and then three flavors are not enough. Was ist nachher gekommen? Oh, then went these ice blocks, and they were called cassata, with these dried fruits in it. That was then the new thing. And then more, then corne, and then this. And now look, I mean, you go into a gelateria, mamma mia, it's like 10 minutes just to choose what you want. And then you take the first lick. What's the first thought? Very, very often. It takes a long time until you know what you want. Then they want you to choose three flavors. Why? Because if you have three three balls, how do you call them? Three kugelen, the same way, the same thing, you would feel the suffering of change, and one would be enough. But because you switch from one to the other, you don't notice the suffering of change. I mean, they're very clever. Yeah, they're very, very clever. But when you take the first lick, what is very often is one of the thoughts that come up. Maybe I should have get. Just watch, you know. They make research on this, like science. They say somebody who has the choice of like three pralines, chocolate, but good ones, like Sprüngli, Trüff. You have like three different ones you can choose from, and you have 20. That the level of happiness or contentment, the one who has only three, that he can choose one out of three, or the other one he can choose one out of 20. The level with the three is much higher. Why? Because you can only go wrong 2 more times, yeah? The other one is 19 times he could have had a better one. This is how it works, yeah, with the attachment. Attachment projects outside, that pleasures are happiness. And then when we don't have to fight for our survival, and this is actually what is happening now, then there's a lot of energy goes into creating more pleasures and different pleasures and more refined and better and this and that. And why? Because the idea that the happiness comes from pleasant experiences through the senses is still there. And what are we doing at the same time with our hunt for pleasures? Huh? Yeah, definitely. And on the outside, we're ruining the planet. Because you see, if comfort and pleasures would give us what we want, I mean, the Swiss society should be so much happier. Because what more do we want? I mean, come on. Yeah. So if it would give us what we think it should give us, we would be happy all the time. But no, we need more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. And then you go into supermarket. It's so confusing. Yeah, it's so confusing. Just the time you need to choose what you want. I mean, it's crazy. And I was in India like 30 years ago. We had Colgate toothpaste, Surf washing powder, and Palmolive soap, or this Indian soap. This is all you could buy. It was so easy. It was so easy. Your tube runs out, you're going to buy next one. And this is where I learned always to buy the same thing. Even though when I find it good, I don't even look what's new. I just buy that one. And then what happens? You want it, and then the shop says, oh, no, sorry, we don't make this anymore. Then again, you have to find a new one. Has it ever happened to you? Or shoes, you give me the same shoes for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. Because they fit, they're comfortable. But no, when my shoes are broken, then they don't exist anymore. New ones, that kind. This is samsara, always making new ones. So recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Like really working with the wrong views that we have of inherent existence, but especially at the beginning also so that the mind becomes a bit more calm, to really work with attachment, our desire and aversion, and this, to really work with these negative emotions. And there's like great methods for that that you will learn in the Discovering Buddhism and other courses here, because that's the main thing. I mean, the main thing in Buddhism is like to reduce your negative emotions and to then finally eliminate them. That's the goal. And then you are free. So when we talk about liberation and enlightenment and all this, I don't know, these words are so strange, isn't it? I mean, did I say? Yeah, I'm a bit. Uh, what Buddhism is liberation. Enlightenment and awakening is kind of okay, but enlightenment is a really strange word. The Buddha, the enlightened one. But the Buddha is free. He has liberated himself from all kinds of negative emotions. And this is what we want. This is the goal. Okay? So the middle part, the middle level of these three levels is this. Yeah? You practice not just to have a good rebirth, but you practice in order to get out of samsara. So you need the other practices as well. Being happy about your precious human rebirth, realizing that it doesn't last, taking care of your actions. Yeah. So that again you have the chance to practice in your next lives. And in that life, not just taking care of your actions, but also taking care of your negative emotions. Yeah. With the wish not to be reborn again under the control of karma and negative emotions. Is that clear? Like not you see not just constantly optimizing, yeah, not just constantly optimizing your body and your apartment and your car and your job and your partner. The kids you can't optimize them. You have to we have to you have to keep them the way they are, isn't it? But all the other things you can change and optimize. Yeah. So not to optimize the outside things, but to optimize your state of mind. By really, really, really studying, observing, and experiencing, because it's not just learning intellectually, it's by observing when you are angry, the picture that it paints, or how do you feel inside? Is that happiness that you start to ask yourself? When you don't ask yourself when you're angry, is that happiness? You go like, wow, yeah, because it gives you a lot of energy if it's exploding anger. If it's imploding anger, there's no happiness there. But it seems that there is some sort of happiness when you're angry. When you are looking forward to something like outside there, also it seems like a lot of happiness. But what happens when it doesn't happen? You see, the most of the suffering we have is because we lose things that we know or we knew and we don't have them anymore. Do you see what I mean? Like the fear of that we're losing our job and our financial security and our financial freedom blah, 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 is because we know how it is to have it. If you never had it, after the first when they have this financial crash there, I have friends, they never had any money, no matter, well, he didn't work, but anyway, she worked and worked, but they never had any money. And she was cleaning houses for very rich people. So when this crash happened, I can't remember when it was, many years ago, more than 20, 30 years ago. One of her clients, he committed suicide because he couldn't imagine a life without having money, you know. But she said, well, in our life, nothing changes. We don't have any money anyway. Yeah. You see, my sister-in-law, this is quite cruel when I say this, but I think it's a fact. My brother died very young when he was 48. It was a very good marriage. 23 years later, she still suffers. If she wouldn't have known my brother, she would be a happier person. Because you see what she projects, okay? The marriage was still very much intact when he died. So she thinks that it would have continued until they died, maybe tied together hand in hand, and this is why she's so unhappy. This is why she doesn't give herself the permission to be happy anymore, actually. Yeah, and she needs to, antidepressives and this and that and more pills because the stomach now is yeah. And nobody can take that pain away from her. That's one of the sufferings also. It's like, yeah, I can understand because there was so much, I mean, this marriage was so good, and I can understand that there's a lot of suffering when it ends. If it would have been rotten, she might have been happy that he died. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I have another, a mother of a friend of mine who had a terrible husband. So when he died, she came to me and she said, I think to you I can say it because you will understand. I'm quite happy that he's dead. Because now I can watch a TV program until it's finished because before he always had this thing, you know. Well, again, today is not a problem anymore because everybody has his own screen, with the tablet and the computer and the TV. But it used to be a problem that everybody had to watch. You still remember, everybody had to watch the same program, is it? And whoever had this remote control, he was in control. Can you imagine such a life? Could you bear such a thing? Huh? We did. We survived. Because we didn't know anything better. If now we would have to go back to that, people would take away your tablets and your telephones and your other screens and only one screen at home. Mama, that would have been, yeah. Hmm. Anyway, so so this is what we're trying to work with in this middle level, getting out of samsara. Yeah, and there you practice ethical conduct, concentration, shamatha, shine, which you do, I guess, Monday morning, and now also when Saturday. Saturday. So again, if you want to start these practices alone at home with a book, I don't think you will go very far. But also, even you come to a group, it will take a long time until you have developed shine. But it's really worthwhile. Once you have the habit, you have the habit to have the discipline, then you don't need the group anymore. But still me, I have to lead these meditations every Tuesday. I guarantee you I wouldn't sit an hour every Tuesday if I wouldn't have to lead the group. So I'm very grateful for this group because then I see that I make progress. Yeah, so the group is very valuable for this. Yeah, it's much easier to sit. I think we talked about this last time. So you practice ethical conduct, concentration, and then the wisdom of emptiness. So this is what you do in the middle level. That will get you out of samsara. And then you would have finished what is called the founder vehicle, or sometimes they call it Theravadin, sometimes they call it Hinayana, which is not very respectful. It's called Hinayana because of the goal. The goal is you want to get out of samsara yourself. You go into what is called nirvana. We also talked about this the first time already. Do you remember the four nirvanas? No, of course not. Doesn't matter. They're probably pretty much on the first time or first page. Page 20, exactly. We have natural nirvana, which is our Buddha nature, that everybody has the possibility to be free from all negative emotions. Your psychotherapist might not believe it if he is not a Buddhist, but as a Buddhist, one has this trust that one can survive without negative emotions, even though sometimes maybe you have to show towards the outside some strength and maybe even anger towards your children also. Yeah, sometimes you have to raise your voice, but you have what is always present in anger is the wish to harm. Yeah, is not there. It's just the voice that is stronger, but is out of concern, is out of compassion, is out of love for the children, not for you. Yeah, whereas if it's somebody that you dislike, then you shout because you want to hurt them. Yeah, this very often we say, nah, it's not like that. But when you look deep down, when you really start to explore these negative emotions and how you feel and what you say, you can see that it's true. Because whether you're really angry at somebody, you can see when, for example, the person is praised, and you have this strong urge to contradict the praise. That means you're angry at the person. And if it's your kid that is being praised, you're happy. Even if it's not true, even if the praise is not justified, you're so happy. You're never correcting anybody when they praise your children. You're not saying, oh, no, actually, he's not as good as that. You'd never do that, is it? Yeah. Whereas you dislike somebody, then there's this very strong urge to tell them the truth, how they are. Yeah. This is anger. And there's always involved with jealousy and envy, or even worse, when they're not so well, that there's a certain form of happiness there called Schadenfreude. Even in English, I heard that they call it Schadenfreude. That it's the joy when somebody gets hurt. Yeah. Okay, so we want to get out of samsara. Let's look at page 33, the next step here. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Okay, so you would take vows. Not because somebody says you have to, but vows you take because you want to. Because if you have a vow, you are more protected because of these, when negative emotions come up, they give you energy. And this energy is somehow your cortex gets shut down because then there's this urge of doing something. In Tibetan, it's called Shempa, and it's really good to observe when a negative emotion comes up, and you already have this ability to have some kind of distance, like when you want to reach out to a certain thing that you know is not good for you, or switch on the telephone when you know that you're already totally totally overloaded and you don't have enough time actually now, but still the urge, that one. And then the practice would be to pull back. So difficult. Have you ever noticed it? Telephone is a good telephone is a good example in two ways. One is like the Shempa is very, very strong, but the telephone we can use. How long did it last for you to develop the habit, to kind of a habit, like automatically to look at it? How long did it take? More or less. Huh? Yeah, not long is like relative, okay? Huh? A week, 2 weeks, something like that. Why? Because you do it all the time. So if you develop the habit to go back to your mind again and again and again, as many times as you look at your telephone, you will have shine and shamatha very, very quickly. If your interest in developing a calm and quiet mind is as big as looking at the telephone, yeah. So see, these examples you can use because we can see we can do it. It's just a matter of habit. It's just a matter of doing that. It's just a matter of training. And the whole of a Buddhist path is just a matter of training and learning through. Then first you learn through listening. Then you, if it makes sense to you, then you start to kind of think about it. But then you have to learn through experience by actually doing it. So it's quite nice. So Buddhism is not like, a devotion vehicle or a belief system kind of thing. It's an experience system. Yeah. That you have to experience these things. Then you see the truth of what is being said. Otherwise you go like, boof. Yeah. Okay. So mindfulness and alertness, great caution arise. The root of these are pratimoksha vows. So the vows, what they are, you can take like pratimoksha vows means self-liberation vows. So you can take vows, 5 lay vows, not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to have sexual misconduct, and not to take intoxicants. So you can take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I heard the Dalai Lama say, well, if you really want to be a Buddhist and you're not taking all 5 vows, I wonder why you want to be a Buddhist. So he said, either you take all 5 or you don't take any of them. Yeah, whereas sometimes they say, for example, if you're producing wine, because intoxicants goes into wine, then maybe better not take that precept to you, because you have to taste your wine all the time. But actually, so again, it doesn't mean that many, especially Swiss people, which we don't have so many here, I think, some. They say, well, I'm only taking the vows when I'll be able to keep them. Then you don't need them anymore. Okay? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a vow, also a vow of not taking intoxicants. I was an alcoholic. I know how it is difficult to get away from the whole thing. I won't start drinking again. Thank you very much. Once is enough, you know, to go through this whole thing about not being able. The shame is there, but you're not, you can't have it. So, but also with not giving in, You can put here a whole range of wine or beer, what a beer. No, I never liked beer, but champagne in front of me. I won't drink it. It's okay. I'm fine. So I'm not a recovering alcoholic, by the way. I have recovered. I'm pretty sure. Because we have rituals where we have to take a little bit of alcohol, and I can't take this without this warm feeling going down here and wanting more. So again, these habits can be broken by not repeating. But every time you reach out, it's like you create another imprint of attachment of having to reach out again. You make the habit stronger and stronger and stronger. And not reaching out is, with anything, not giving in to your negative emotions hurts. This is what I'm saying. It's difficult. It really hurts. It's like having an itch and then not to scratch. So because we're scratching all the time, we don't really notice our itches. And then having vows is like somebody's tying your hands, behind your back, and then you start to feel the itches because you can't scratch anymore. But as you're scratching, what happens? You're making the wound deeper, and it can't heal. Whereas you leave it, then it hurts, it itches, but it will heal. So this is basically, this goes a bit as examples, what a Buddhist path is all about. You stop scratching. Or as Pema Chodron says, you stop biting the hook. See, we are like Shenpa is like, you be a fish and you've been biting already on on three hooks, right? So you kind of know it, but you were not big enough, so you got released because they're not allowed to take you. They have to have a certain length. Here in Switzerland, I don't know how it is in other countries. So somehow you remember, but again you swim and then you see the worm. So we see the worm, we see the short term gratification. So we see the worm and we forget that there's a hook behind, and zack, we bite. Yeah, so this is this middle level, what you practice, what you pay a lot of attention to is your negative emotions. And why also negative emotions are not so good, because they spoil our happiness. We can't be happy when these emotions are present. There's these very nice sayings like, every time you're angry for a minute, you miss out on 60 seconds of happiness and relaxed mind and all this. So so this is it. Then in this tradition here, so like as I said, you understand this. Until now, this is what, like in the Theravadian tradition, would be practiced. The goal is, I want to stop my uncontrolled rebirth. Whereas now we go further. Yeah? So what we've done now, when we talk again about the nirvanas, we have natural nirvana, which is our Buddha nature. Everybody can become liberated from these negative emotions because they're not oneness with the mind. The nature of the mind is clean and clear. Um, then you would actually go towards that goal. You have what is called nirvana with remainder, where you have still your body, but it still dies. And then you go into nirvana and you stay there. It's called nirvana without remainder. Okay, but then there is a fourth nirvana. Anybody remembers that? There's a non-abiding nirvana, where your mind is pure, your mind is clean, but you come back again and again. I mean, clean of those negative emotions. You have understood emptiness directly in your meditation. Yeah, you have had a direct perception of absence of inherent existence. Um, and then, but you have also developed compassion on the path, and then you see that I'm not the only one here. Everybody else is in this kind of is in this illusion that the world outside is the cause for my happiness or my unhappiness, and also in this illusion that I have a separate I or me. Okay, you see, everybody suffers because of that, and everybody lives their life how as if we are in a dream, and it's sometimes a good dream, sometimes a bad dream, and we're not waking up. So if you look at somebody who has a nightmare, and they're screaming and, going around. Do you have compassion for this person? Would you like to wake this person up? Well, I hope so. Because you understand that their suffering is totally unnecessary. You see, suffering is not there for us to learn something, or that we get a lesson taught or a punishment or whatever. Suffering is totally unnecessary because it comes from causes that are based on ignorance, based on the ignorance that whatever I see is real. Same as in a dream. When you are in a dream, whatever you see is real. And your emotional world totally goes along with it. Yeah? So this is the Buddhas. They seeing us dreaming away here, dreaming away our life, being totally self-concerned and only looking out after our own happiness and never really finding it, and refusing to wake up. And dream is a good, when you say the Buddha is awakened, dream is also a good example, because when you see how, in a dream you see the power of your mind, how it can create something and nothing is there. And how very often it creates the dream because of, maybe because of you hearing something. Yeah, I have a very bad habit. I wake up kind of 5:30 in the morning, then I switch on the radio and listen to the news, and then sometimes I fall right back to sleep again. But then I had this dream this morning. I was teaching something, but I couldn't remember what I was teaching, and something was kind of blah 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 talking, and then I thought, like, what is talking? But it was the radio was talking, but it was talking in my dream. Like, I made the dream around this voice in the radio. So when you wake up and you know that, you go like, you're happy because you go like, wow. Again, I took something outside, I distorted it so that it would fit my dream. And this is what we do, and we think we are awake. Yeah. So as opposed to somebody who is liberated from these false or wrong views, we are dreaming. So that's why the fear of somebody who has a nightmare is not necessary, because nothing is there. But before before we really understand emptiness, we can't go around in life and say, oh well, it's all a dream, nothing happens, and you go in the middle of the street and boom, the jam hits you. It's not like this. Yeah, because you're still in your dream, and you will die in your dream, or you will be injured in your dream. Yeah, you can only do that once you have realized emptiness, these kind of things. But the next step would be see that, that you not only want your own awakening, but you want the awakening of all sentient beings. Okay, out of compassion. And then we have to see, why do we have to be compassionate? That's the question. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so of all mother migratory beings, please bless me to see this train in supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. So this is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So very often the word bodhicitta, same as karma and these other Sanskrit words, they are used and people don't exactly understand what it means. So the ones who are doing bodhicitta module, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Marcus is our expert in that.
Marcus, bodhicitta, please, please explain bodhicitta.
No, you don't. Don't know. Blacked out.
Huh?
Fabio, dimmi.
Bodhicitta. Yeah, but what does that mean? If you say, if I go out in the street and then you say mind of enlightenment, I still go, huh? So what's that? What's that? What's the mind of enlightenment?
We move on to Teres.
Okay, so it has two aspects. And sometimes people say, like they see somebody very compassionate and they go like, oh, it's a real bodhisattva. So bodhisattva is somebody who has this mind of enlightenment. So yeah, mind of enlightenment is nice, but it's like, it doesn't really mean the wish to be liberated from all negative emotions plus these wrong views, and having developed all the qualities in order to help all sentient beings. Yeah? For the sake, or to be able to help all sentient beings, I have to get out of samsara very quickly. That's the mind of enlightenment. Mind of enlightenment. As I say, I don't like enlightenment so much, but that's the official term. So anyway. So it has these two aspects. It's not just, the enlightenment for everybody else, or may everybody else be happy but not me. It's like if I want to help them, I really have to know how to help them. And why? And so we have two different methods how to do this, um, which are in your Lamrim outline somewhere, page 29. So bodhicitta, so I added here a few things. It's not a duty or a demand from the Buddha to say you have to. You have to become a Buddha because he taught the two methods, the two vehicles. So please never look down on people who are practicing in the founder vehicle, because that's the basis, that is the ground. You can't be a bodhisattva without the Four Noble Truths and precious human rebirth, impermanence and death and all that. So you have to see the benefit of it, and it's not to give up caution or friendliness. So it's good. As you see, even like this, it works. So it's not to give up caution. It doesn't mean you let everybody hurt you, and because there's compassion for everybody, and it doesn't mean that you're not friendly to your friends or something like that. So you have aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. Aspiring bodhicitta, that comes first, means you find this a good thing. You find this method about developing a mind that is open, that wants everybody to be happy, that wants everybody to be free from suffering, that gives the right for everybody to be happy. You have to see that this is a good thing, and not everybody doesn't on this planet. People who are leftist, rightist, and all this. I mean, I also have sometimes problems with people who vote. I can't say this in front of the camera, does it? Who vote for SVP, irgendwie. I also have problems with those. Even though, and then one becomes very one-sided, and even though sometimes they say good things, one doesn't want to hear because they SVP, isn't it? Sometimes, and also sometimes the leftists, they're not that clever, and so they don't cooperate. So the aspiring bodhicitta, first you need to know what it is, that it's not to damage yourself, that it is actually to just to open up your heart. And we do have, we have this natural concern for beings. The only thing is that it's very limited. Yeah. I don't know if you know this quote from Einstein, which is really beautiful. You can find it on the internet, where he says, a human being is part of the universe, but through a certain optical mental kind of illusion, we separate ourselves from others, and then we start to be attached to just a few that we like, and all the others we don't care. And our task is to open up our interest and our heart so that we can we can embrace the whole of nature and the whole of humanity. Einstein says this, and he says though, and I'm not with this, I don't agree. He says it is not possible to do this, to embrace the whole of everything, but just the trying will give you mental stability and a happy life. It's a very beautiful quote. Yeah, it's a very beautiful quote. And this is exactly what it says. So basically, developing bodhicitta means I give the right to everybody to be happy, even though they're awful being. Even Trump, you have to give the right to Donald Trump to be happy. Why? And not this perverse happiness of winning and, denigrating others and all this, but real happiness. Real happiness that comes from being of benefit. This is what we want for beings. Yeah. Because then he will stop harming others. This is it. Yeah. As we said, we can quote Jesus here also. You have to love the ones who don't deserve it because they need it the most. Yeah. Or Thomas Merton, who says like a holy being is somebody not because outside the world sees them as holy, but a holy being is somebody who sees everybody as valid and holy, basically, everybody else out there. Then you become a holy being. Meaning, in Buddhist terms, you recognize the Buddha nature of everybody. And this, you've all been to India, okay? The Indians, when you meet them, what do they say? Namaste. Namaskar, namaste. Do you know what it means? Yeah, I greet your goodness or your holy thing in you. You know, I am greeting the holy part in you. That's what it means. So that means we start to see the good things in people and not to just concentrate on the bad things. Yeah. And if, of course, we all have to wish already now, or even though I mean, I'm far away from being a Buddha, I don't know about you, but we already have to wish now to correct others how they should behave in the right way, isn't it? That urge to tell everybody how they should do, what they should do. So there again, first we start with ourselves. At the moment, I'm not a Buddha, so I have absolutely no, it's not my duty to educate the world. My duty is, okay, I have to tell you a few things, but my main duty is to work with my own mind. This is why I'm a Buddhist, and this is why I'm practicing. Yeah, so if they stop asking me to come and teach, I'm not unhappy about this because I still have a lot of work to do. But having to teach is a good way to learn also. So, yeah, so thank you very much. Have you noticed my dizziness has disappeared? So, yeah, it's great. So it comes and goes just like this, which until now it has always disappeared. This is why I'm not so worried when it comes because I trust that it will go again. Okay, so 5 causes for bodhicitta is seeing the benefit of it, of course, then devotion to the Buddha. Do you want to sit on a chair also? No, I'm fine. Maybe Nina already knows. It's like if I want something, I tell you, and if I don't say anything, that means I don't need anything. Okay, but it's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Seeing the benefit of it, then devotion to the Buddha. Meaning also knowing the whole path, not just the bodhicitta path, because otherwise you become a martyr. Yeah, you have to first learn to take care of yourself before you start to take care of others. Seeing the suffering of sentient beings, the same way. But again, when we talk about nightmare and reality, when you see somebody in a nightmare that they're screaming, you have compassion, you would wake them up. But you're quite calm because you know that their suffering is not real. When you walk in the street and you see somebody falling, they have a fracture, an open fracture, like the bone is coming out there, and you're not a doctor. Do you have the same kind of compassion? Is your mind in the same calm state? Not at all. Yeah? Because there again, we don't know, it can be, the moment we're panicking. Yeah? So the mind of a Buddha, this is why they're always smiling, the Shakyamuni, because he knows they only have to wake up. They're only in a nightmare. Their suffering is not real. They're only in a dream. This is why the Buddhas are not panicking. Yeah. It's only us who don't understand. Because this habit of seeing things as real is sitting so deep. So deep, so deep. So the first step is to know it intellectually. Next step is to meditate on it. And then you have a direct experience, which I haven't had, of course. But one day it will come, hopefully. Then you need the inspiration of a spiritual master, also, it says, to really develop bodhicitta. Because, I've seen my master, Kitsenja Rinpoche, is like, he was living it totally. He was totally equanimous towards all the beings. He was really living it in a way. And, don't forget, they're Tibetans. They've been chased out of their country. Absolutely no hate for the Chinese. And just saying, well, there's just as many Chinese who suffer under this government and under this system as Tibetan, if not more. It also comes just from deluded minds. So I was very impressed by these things. And the fearlessness to bear the hardships of the path. So, yeah, it's like, it's a challenging thing, this whole thing. Then the two enemies is grasping at the self. Grasping at the self, that gets rid of, you get rid of that by ultimate bodhicitta. So you have also two bodhicittas in, like, as I said, one is the aspiring one, you think it's a good thing. The other one is you make the step, you say, yes, I want to practice this. After you have really known the path, you take vows. And but also sometimes they talk about two bodhicittas. Teres, magst du erinnern? Yeah, aspiring and engaging. This we had. Engaging bodhicitta means you take bodhisattva vows and you start practicing the six perfections. But then there's also ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta. So the ultimate bodhicitta is not really this compassion mind. Ultimate bodhicitta means you study emptiness. Yeah. So that one gets rid of this very strong sense of I. The more you meditate, when you feel this I and you kind of try to find it, the more you meditate on it, the lesser it becomes. Like the feeling, the solidity goes a little bit. So meditating on emptiness, especially the absence of this I, makes it less solid. Gets rid of the grasping. Then for conventional bodhicitta, when you start to practice generosity, ethical conduct, patience, and these kind of things, it gets rid of the self-cherishing. Like you start to widen your interest in other beings' happiness, even they're not your friends, not your children, and not your family, whatever, like everybody, just in a very equanimous way. So the first step is always is to create, like, to level out this. These ones I like, these ones I don't like. Like a good farmer, when you have a field with holes and kind of holes and little mountains, you have to first make it level, and so that's, again, it's like it's difficult. Once you've done that, I think then you have done a big step when you have stopped labeling people as friend, enemy, and strangers. But it's huge, yeah, and you have to see the benefit of it. So then you see, when they say bodhisattvas don't have any enemies, it doesn't mean that bodhisattvas are not getting hurt or harmed. But for a bodhisattva, the enemy is not like for us. For us, an enemy is somebody that, hmm? Yeah, somebody that harms us. A friend is somebody that helps us, or at least has the same opinions, or votes for the same party, and these kind of things. That's a friend. But for a bodhisattva, is a friend is somebody that I want them to be happy. That is a friend. Doesn't matter if the person harms me or not. Like the friend, for us, the friend comes this side. For a bodhisattva, somebody who is a real bodhisattva. You see, we all say, well, I'm on the bodhisattva path, but I mean, that's just words, isn't it? I mean, for the moment, I mean, for me, I'm starting to get a little bit better on this, but it's big steps where everybody you see, you just only wish them well in a very natural way. It comes as if you see your best friend. Yeah. When you see somebody suffering, you want them to be free from suffering, no matter how bad they are, no matter how much they make other people suffer. Yeah. So those is like, don't underestimate the task. Yeah. And then, of course, it's like not just to be of benefit helping them now, to be of benefit for them, taking them out of samsara. So if you have no renunciation for yourself, wanting to get out of samsara, it's a bit of illusion wanting to bring other people out of samsara. Yeah. So like this. So there's like two different methods, which maybe we can just briefly look at one, and then we look at the six perfections quickly, and then I wanted to finish with the meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha, if it's okay for you, then to finish those four evenings. So I think at the moment in discovering Buddhism, you finished with the bodhicitta module, or no? But anyway, it's not so beneficial, I think, to start with this. Although you already know that this is the goal. Yeah, that from the beginning, I want to go there. But still, it's good to start with, working with your own mind before we run out, kind of helping others. Because otherwise, we're like somebody who is he doesn't know how to drive, and then is trying to learn driving with the Formula One car. Yeah, because then you really, if you don't know how to really take good care of yourself, like as a bodhisattva, then you have to be somebody who is totally unneedy. Like you don't need praise, you don't need to be acknowledged, you don't need to. Still, you can try, but did you see what I mean? Am I warning them too much? You think? I don't know. Yeah. It's a very, when I heard the first time about bodhicitta, I was very inspired because I thought, wow, this is amazing. Because you don't need to be that terribly intelligent. You don't need to be beautiful. You don't need to be young. You don't need to have diplomas. This is available for everybody. An open heart for everybody that comes into your. I was maybe underestimating that how difficult it is, but I was very inspired by that. And just at the beginning, it's just thoughts. It's you're not doing actions yet. It's just thoughts. Yeah. So that's the goal. If you can make that your goal, that would be very wonderful. But still, also, doing the first few steps with gracious human rebirth, impermanence, and death, karma, especially then working with your own delusions, and then, yeah, okay. Like what we did here was just to give you a quick look at the menu. Yeah, and then it's good to start with the appetizers and then the main course and then the dessert, which is bodhicitta. Yeah. Okay, so one of the methods is like page 29 is equanimity. First is this equanimity, to level out this one I like, this one I dislike, this one I'm not interested in. There's very precise methods how to do that. Then the disadvantage of cherishing self. We think about that. Yeah, many disadvantages cherishing oneself. Then in order to loosen this I'm the center of the universe, we think about how dependent we are on others. I mean, I know it says here the kindness of others, but I think because then people say, yeah, but I pay for my sandwich that I'm buying, so why should I see the one who made it as kind? Yeah, so, but we're totally depending on others. Yeah. Also, if you want to attain enlightenment, I mean, you have to practice what is called six perfections, which is generosity. For that, you need others. Ethical conduct. For that, you need others. Patience. For that, you need definitely others. So like this. How many of you, as you put on your clothes this morning, well, the weather starts to get warmer, so maybe it doesn't work so much anymore. Um, we're thinking about the beings that were involved in making your clothes as you put them on this morning. Nobody, yeah? It's my trousers, it's my shoes, it's my socks. How many of you, when you took a shower, were thinking about the plumber who put in the tubes? People who invented hot water that is running 24 hours a day. The towel that you dry yourself with, how many beings are involved there? Breakfast, oof, just a simple cup of tea. You see the whole universe in a simple cup of tea because the people who planted the tea, they had parents, and those parents had parents, and those parents had parents, and those parents had parents. So it's like everything is involved in here. Yeah. So we start to think like this. We start to think how every moment of happiness that we have comes from somebody else. The deepest moments of happiness that you have is because somebody allows you to love them, to be concerned about them, to have contact with them. Not so much they love you back, okay, that's also nice, but they allow you to go close to them and to love them. Yeah? Those are the best moments in our life, isn't it? So for that we need others. Because loving ourselves, we're very selfish, but really loving ourselves, are we there? Without the self-criticism and the never content and denigrating ourselves, putting ourselves down. What do you think? Low self-esteem. Do we have that? Insecurity. Do we have it? Yeah, everybody has it. So if we would just be with ourselves, I think would be without phone, without tablet, without books, For how long would you bear it? Marcus? Again. Not too long. Hmm. Unless you go into retreat and develop bodhicitta, an open heart for all beings, then different. You take them into your retreat. Yeah. So this meditation on the kindness of others, it really opens up your heart. Yeah. It really connects you with others, even though they're not there. So it's such a valid thing, because again, it is true. This is why people think Buddhism is such a good thing, because the big thing is kindness. The big thing is compassion. The other big thing is wisdom, knowing about reality. Yeah, and knowing about reality, not in a way, oh, nothing exists, so therefore nothing matters. But knowing reality, knowing that what we are in a dream, and therefore the suffering that we have is not necessary. Then the compassion, wanting to wake up, wanting to get out of that misconception of dualistic thinking, I and the world out there. So kindness, compassion, and wisdom, basically, that's what is being developed in Buddhism. Then some are very successful, and some others are not. I mean, the path is very long. One life is not enough. So again, when you see somebody who is maybe very angry and they're Buddhist or something, and then you say, like, oh my gosh, but they're Buddhists. It's like, then people who knew them maybe 20 years ago, they come and say, Phew, you should have seen them 20 years ago. We don't know. You see, we're not Buddhas. Every Buddhist is just a Buddhist, is not a Buddha, but they're all on the way. And whether they are trying honestly or not, or whether there's big results or small results, I mean, is not for you to judge. This path is for you, for each one of us, so that we develop our own mind. Of course, somebody who is a living example, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's very inspiring, yeah. But not everybody is at his level. So, okay. Yeah, so not every Tibetan, for example, is the Dalai Lama. Not every Buddhist is totally non-violent and, absolute bodhisattva and all this. So it's not to give up caution also. When somebody is really harmful for you, then just separate from them. Then we equalize ourselves with others. That's another good thing that you ask yourself in the morning when you feel that instinct of my happiness is so terribly important. Then you just challenge it and say, why? Why is my happiness more important than somebody else's happiness? Why? Give me a good reason. I guarantee you won't find even one. Or when I ask you, do you want to be happy? Of course. Then if I ask why, what reason would you give me? Of course, you should know. Mahayana Buddhists should know the answer to that. Huh? Yeah, because when we're unhappy, we can't be of assistance to anybody, you know. So there's a reason to be happy, but most of the people, they go like, "Well, just because." Yeah. Ask yourself that sometime. Why is my happiness more important than others' happiness? Then we start to equalize ourselves, but equalizing again is not enough. So then the next step is you put others' happiness before yours. And in order to do that, also you see the advantage of it. Like we see the disadvantage of cherishing only ourselves. We become very lonely and very selfish. We're never happy and all this. You only have to, selfish people? You know somebody who's very selfish? Yeah. Do you think somebody could be thinking of you now? Somebody else? Yeah. Yeah, we say yeah, but no, not really, do we? We're not selfish. No, only the others. Yeah. So we see the disadvantage of cherishing self, then the advantage of cherishing others. Everything, all the good things come, and it's so easy. You can do with very small gestures you're in the tram is full, you see somebody, and just a thought, may you be happy, may you be well, may be free from pain, free from fear, free from suffering. Just that, it makes your ride much easier. Yeah, don't have to say anything. And then you spread it in the whole tram, thing like that. So many occasions where we can practice this. Or you don't even try to sit down, then you don't have to choose whom you want to give the seat. You just say, whoever wants to sit. Then you see a young teenager sitting there, and then you rejoice. Instead of, young one, you should leave the seats for the old people like this. It's amazing when you feel the tension in these public. I don't have a car, so I'm only always in public transport. When you feel the tension, the moment you're relaxed, very often the tension just goes. We can really influence people around us by the way, by the vibes we kind of give out. Yeah. Okay, and then one is doing this very big thing. This meditation is called Tonglen, it's called giving and taking, which you will learn if you continue to come here, which is a meditation where you, by breathing in, you take away the suffering of somebody else and you give away all your happiness. And again, but it needs a lot of explanation so that you don't misunderstand what you're doing. You're not taking it on you, you're taking it away from the other. So, and I usually with Westerners also, I start by just that they learn just to give. You give happiness, you give love, you give light. Then we discover how much we actually have to give in terms of that. That it's never empty. When you start giving in the tram or wherever, in workplace, when you just start to spread just these thoughts, yeah, without saying anything. Nobody needs to know. Then all of a sudden you start to see, well, there's never empty. Oh no, I'm too tired to think that everybody should be happy. No, no, no. It's never like this. Yeah. And then we can start maybe taking also. But we're not keeping it, we're transforming it. Yeah. So like that. Okay. So if you're able to do that, then I would say then we're pretty much along the path. And then, yeah, you engage in practicing the six perfections, which is generosity, ethical conduct. It's a bit different. The ethical conduct of a bodhisattva is a bit different from the one. Yeah, I think it should be okay. We're still a bit different from the just. We are not just abstaining from harming others, but you're also helping others. And then you practice patience. There's also different ways of practicing patience. Then you practice enthusiasm. You practice. Actually, the enthusiasm comes. The more you are patient, but not patient in terms of, I wait until it's finished, but patient by seeing that, yeah, I mean, it's like the other one is also suffering, is also controlled by his negative mind, same as I am. Is my karma is the boomerang coming back? Let me see what I can do now. The more you practice that, the more you become enthusiastic, because patience gives you a lot of courage. And then enthusiasm comes for the practice. Then with that you practice concentration and then the wisdom. And then you become a Buddha. You're liberated from all negative emotions. On top of it also have generated, or how to say, have developed all the positive qualities that one can have. You have universal compassion, universal wisdom, universal love, of course, and skillful means. You know how to help others, whether to just leave them so they figure out themselves, or whether to actively help them or whatever. You always know what to do. I would love that. This is why I'm practicing. I don't have it yet, so. But yeah. And then somebody asked me at one point, what about if this is no possible, your enlightenment thing here? So I said, well, it doesn't matter, As I've been practicing maybe for 30 years, I can definitely see the difference. So even though the difference for the better, so even though there is no enlightenment, doesn't matter. It was still worthwhile. With this, I mean, it might seem small for you, but with this practice, I was able to accept my mother the way she is before she died. And I tell you, for me, that was a big step because I really hated her. So when I heard about, if your mother would have left you alone just 2 days when you were a baby, you would surely have died. I can still hear Karen's voice in Kopan saying that. I was sitting there, first course in my meditation, I thought, shit, this is true. So this is how slowly, it still took another 10 years of practice. But I was really able to, maybe love is a big word, but at least not to reject her. She hasn't changed a bit, but I have. So there I could see, it doesn't matter how she is. It depends on my attitude. Okay. So how about there's a very nice Shakyamuni Buddha, I almost said puja, um, meditation in here. So how about I lead you through that? Do we have it? Yeah, page 14, exactly. Do you feel comfortable by visualizing Shakyamuni Buddha? If you don't feel comfortable, please don't. Yeah, I mean, that's how he looks, but he's made out of light. But please don't visualize him if you don't feel comfortable. Just visualize a source of light, but something that you would like to become, because otherwise it becomes theistic. And Buddhism is really not theistic. Yeah. So Buddhism is not that you adore the Buddha and you visualize the Buddha and you're the poor sinner and then the Buddha kind of purifies you. It's not at all like that. You take the outside Buddha to wake up your inner potential to become Buddha as well. Yeah. You start to believe in your own potential. So you can visualize a form or a source of light, and just by thinking that source of light has all the qualities I want to have. So then we also become quite clear what we want. How do I want to be? What kind of qualities would I like to have? And so on. Okay? So try to sit in a comfortable position with a straight back but totally relaxed. We can do for 2 minutes. Close your eyes, maybe, unless you're really used to meditate with your eyes open. And in order to relax the body, try to breathe with your whole body. Unless you have other practices where you know how to relax immediately. Also, make it really wide, kind of the breath, and pay special attention to your face. And with each out breath, become very wide and very open. Give space, because very often we're holding small tensions, and then we don't notice how tense we are. Let the breath go in and out very naturally. Be with it though. Whenever the mind moves away, again, become aware of your breathing, but in your whole body. So today we were kind of recapitulating the whole path. We talked about the 2 goals or the 3 levels, either just a good life, good rebirth, getting out of samsara, or attaining full awakening in order to benefit, or in order to lead all sentient beings to that state. So you check your own motivation. At least may I be able not to harm others with my self-centered mind and attitude. And as much as possible, may I be of benefit already now. That'd be great. To make the motivation not too narrow, not just for yourself. And you can even think, yes, I want to become like the Buddha, being liberated of all suffering and the causes for suffering, meaning wrong views and all disturbing emotions. Never ever having a negative thought or the thought of harming for any sentient being. And in the mind, only the wish to help, only the wish to benefit, very spontaneously, like a mother or father for their children. So we can take the Buddha as an example, and in order to wake up our Buddha potential or to nourish it, you can visualize into space a few feet in front of you, Shakyamuni Buddha, facing you. His form is non-obstructing, golden light, luminous and vibrant. So make it three-dimensional, but transparent, like a radiant golden jewel. His essence is infinite compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom. His face is very peaceful and smiling, and he radiates love to you. See, the Buddhas are always there, we just don't think about them. So try to feel the presence of this personified love, compassion, wisdom, and skillful means, and that he accepts you just the way you are. The only wish he has for you to be happy, to be free from suffering. So the Buddha is seated on a lotus, and on top of the lotus are two radiant discs representing the sun and the moon. So the lotus represents renunciation, the sun wisdom, and the moon cooling bodhicitta. So you have these three principal aspects of the path that he has finished, and through his method we are able to attain the same state. He wears the saffron robes of a monk and sits in cross-legged Vasha posture. The palm of his right hand rests on his right knee. His left hand rests in his lap in meditation gesture, holding a bowl filled with nectar, the medicine to heal all conflict, to heal all negative emotions. So imagine light radiating from every pore of his body, completely reaching the limits of the universe, filling all of space and dispelling all darkness. So because he's transparent, you can visualize in his heart is another moon disk. And the mantra that we're going to chant is around them. It's around the edge of this moon disk. And imagine that from these letters of the mantra, light rays filling all of space, touching all the beings throughout the entire universe, and also entering you through the crown of your head like a radiant waterfall of healing energy. Imagine this filling up your entire body, purifying negativities, enhancing all of your positive qualities. So while we're chanting the mantra, you try to keep this visualization, this healing, purifying light entering you, getting rid of all your negativities, nourishing all the positive qualities that we would like to have. Tayata Muni Muni Maha Munaye So Tayata Muni Muni Maha Munaye So Tayata Muni Muni Maha Munaye So Muni Mahamunaye Soa Dayata Muni Mahamunaye Soa Dayata Muni Mahamunaye Soa. Then you imagine that your body is completely filled with this radiant energy. The Buddha is extremely pleased that we are showing interest for the practice, that we are trying to practice, and dissolves into a radiant golden jewel. Now if it feels comfortable, then you can visualize that this drop comes to your crown, slowly dissolving into you, blessing your crown chakra, purifying all negativities associated with your body, slowly descending down, blessing your throat chakra, purifying all negativities associated with your speech, then descending to your heart chakra, purifying all the negativities associated with your mind. Then just take a moment to feel this oneness with Shakyamuni Buddha and his fully liberated and awakened mind. And see yourself as the person that you would like to be, having the qualities you would like to have, having the self-confidence that we can do it, because our nature is goodness. And we can finish the meditation by letting go of all the ifs and buts and just each one of us thinking in a very simple way, I am a good person. So then we dedicate all the positive energy generated from doing this practice to maximizing our potential as a human, opening our heart and purifying our mind as quickly as we can, progressing along the path to full awakening, where you will have an unlimited capacity for being of benefit to all living beings. Well, thank you very much. So we kind of finished these. So we finished these 4 evenings. I hope you have maybe some idea about the structure of the path or those 3 levels. Again, you don't need to know it by heart, but it will come again and again and again. And what is good is that when you go to teachings in the future, that you know where to fit them in. And if your interest is raised, then I mean this is a place where you can continue. Nina will tell you more about it. And yeah, I wish you all the best. If not, if you don't want to continue because you say no, this is not for me, maybe try again. Maybe it's my fault. Probably, most probably, because I definitely, it was never my wish that I would go out and teach. But then my teacher said I was okay, so that's why. Also, he's dead. You see, I mean, he's died, and the last advice he gave, he said, "Well, as long as they keep asking, then go." So this is why I tell every group, if you want to stop asking me, just do. So it's like it's absolutely
Some
not
bad news for you. I don't
a.
know. You'll be teaching
Is,
for a
is
very long.
huh?
You'll be teaching for a very long
I
time.
don't know.
People
No,
keep
it's no.
asking.
I don't think so because also my memory is going like really bad, and already before I was not very structured. Now you might have noticed. Now I'm even more unstructured. Before I used to know where to come back to when I had gone off a tangent. Now I don't even know where to come back to. Then on the train when I go home, I go, oh, this is what I wanted to say. But anyway, you will have to hear this again and again and again and again and again. So yeah, so good luck. And since we all have put the potential, at one point I think we will all get there because you see this wish for happiness, this is our Buddha potential calling us, saying in a very subtle way, you could have it in a better way. So all we need to do, the attention to optimize things outside, is just to take it inside. And the methods we have, and just to hear that, I mean, how many people have this opportunity to hear that their nature is, that by nature they are pure? Usually we always focus on the negative sides. Yeah. So, so yeah, may you realize your potential very, very quickly. Thank you. Thank you very much for being so patient.